Just a just wanted to kind of point to something that I think is I've always kind of, well, at least for a long time, thought was dangerous. And and that is, if somebody says, you're saying, man, I'm kind of upset, however you might lay it out, right? I'm kind of worried because, and I don't really care what president, maybe you were concerned about Biden doing. I don't really care, right? The thing is, you're concerned about something, and then, but everybody around you said, well, you're being hyperbolic. Probably they wouldn't phrase it that way, but no, 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 an American president would never do that, or a congressman would never do that, a sheriff would never do that. So that is kind of dangerous. And I what I don't mean is, I don't mean that we should be just totally, like sensationalized constantly and think that every around every corner is the boogeyman or whatever. But when people, it's very easy for people to get used to things and be totally certain that obviously we're all on the same page. A very long time ago, I mean, it was kind of obvious, even if I wanted to not see it, when I wasn't even into politics, right? As people say, it's just fucking obvious that you know the two parties are just totally different value sets. And while running for election or whatever, that's good. People just let that kind of blow by or whatever. They don't think about that, but they ought to, because if if you live in a democracy, republic, what the fuck ever, for people who you know just freak the fuck out when people say democracy. That's a different topic, I guess. But um, you know, where some kind of representational, system, and we could always argue at another time, how useful that is, how true that is, etc. I have some doubts, but at least the idea of it. But I mean, and so that's, the American government totally rests on the idea that, we're all playing by the same rule set. That, we might have different values. My neighbor on the left might think that, the the debt is just killing us, and yada yada. We've got to just cut all funding. Maybe even military funding. Although that freaks people out too. So, but anyway, you got the idea, right? And then the person on the right could say, "Fuck, man. I mean, people are having trouble, or like maybe they're like, I'm busting my ass, one job, two job. My husband's doing, maybe he's over the road making good money, but we can't make it. We got, X amount of kids, 2.5, whatever, and we're just not getting ahead, right? And so, we need a government that's going to help the people. You know, whatever form that takes is not the point. Um, it's just that different people have different values. Neighbor on whichever side, the over the road guy, right? They know that people can work their ass off. They can do everything right, and still not be there. The guy on the other side, who's all about debt, I mean, he's totally about, hey, I made it. I don't know why everybody else is having problems. They're just fucking lazy. Americans are lazy. A variety of different, talking points get thrown around like that. So, um, we have a problem that, we don't really address directly because, we kind of, you need to fix the tangible, but the underlying problem that makes fixing the tangible difficult is our value sets are different. So, there's no more, you know, some kind of thing of, for the greater good or whatever. Where, you know, anyway, I'm hoping you kind of get the point there. So, that's a problem, right? And similarly, you got things like, um, sometimes I have worries economically where it's apparent. I mean, it's just apparent, right? That companies are like the healthcare companies, right? United Healthcare with the AI that goes through their claims, figures out, okay, you're an older person, yada yada. I'm going to deny it a couple times. Why? Because you're an older person, and I think maybe you'll give up. Is the reasoning. They'll kind of have little checkbox or something, I suppose, not medically necessary or whatever, you know. But I mean, the reason is, and it's not that hard to know that shit. You get on, earnings calls, and they say it, because they want their investors to invest more. So they're saying, hey man, we're just, rocking it out. We're canceling all kinds of claims and all, and keeping in mind too. Sorry to be getting off track a little bit here, but you know, insurance companies, the premium you pay is how they fucking make money, right? That's underwriting. They figure out how they can make money if they make you pay this much a month. So to me, and I'm sure there are plenty of people who would just, oh no no, no, you're totally wrong, but I mean, it's just I can't quite figure out how an insurance company would have a system that would be banking on you filing claims where the premium isn't making them money, right? What if you're fucking healthy, healthy as an ox or whatever, and none of their customers file because or maybe they go see the doctor and okay, you're still healthy, um, obviously they're still making money, probably hand over fist. So it's canceling claims is just from their side of it is just bonus. So um, but where I was trying to get to is um, in our system, companies have been getting a pretty easy ride, a free ride for some of them, for so long that I'll have conversations with people where I'll kind of lay out, hey, I think I'm concerned this is what's going to happen. The government is bailing out a company that has a lot of loss, etc. We should really just, let them go. but we're going to pay into the company. We're not going to get anything back. The company's going to keep going in debt because, they're making money by playing around with being in debt, which is just very, very in vogue nowadays, has been for quite a while. But, um, you know, you can't lose, right? It's kind of like being the house. It's kind of hard for them to lose money because they set the fucking rules up. They set everything up to ensure that they make money. So, um, it'd be kind of like a sports team that just wins every single season, over and over and over. And when they finally start losing, I would imagine that it's harder on them than the team that often loses because they've had to process that. They've had to, you know, whatever, and then get out of the ditch, and start winning. But a team that's feels like they've always won, for some of the players maybe they have, for that team, the time they've been with them, and that's the way companies are. I think they're just so used to being able to call up the senator, the representatives, the president, and say, hey, I need, or mayors, city council, get sweetheart deals, right? That, it just, they can't lose, especially if we're talking about, billionaires. Because even when financially their companies lose, a lot of times they win. So it's totally conceivable to me that they most certainly would do things that look suicidal, financially speaking, to you and I, maybe, I hope, to me at least, because they just know that they're going to be bailed out, right? I mean, so, or they're going to buy the president, what have you. So I mean, no society really can function much at all, and our form of government, totally rests on everybody playing by the rules. The current administration has already made very plain that the rules don't apply to them being the executive branch. Obviously, Congress didn't help, but so that's kind of the problem we have today, I'd say. So, all right, see you guys later.